Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for the news briefing for today. Sorry we're starting a minute or two late, but thanks for bearing with us. We have Dr. Moreno with us from Monterey County Public Health, and he is going to answer our COVID-19 questions. Any updates today, or are you ready for questions, Dr. Moreno?
Yeah, good afternoon, Matt. No, Public Health has no announcements, but I can take questions.
All right. So for those of you who have questions for Dr. Moreno, go ahead and put them in chat. And as soon as we give people a couple of seconds to type in their questions. Right, I have your first question, Dr. Moreno. The Monterey County COVID-19 case rate has jumped significantly in the past week. What does the county health department attribute the rise in cases to when nearly 80% of those eligible for in the county are fully vaccinated?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Matt. So COVID-19 is an infectious disease, and there's still transmission here in Monterey County and throughout California. And so the transmission is causing rates to continue to slowly rise. And it's very, very important that people understand we're still in a pandemic and that there are steps that they can do to try to decrease exposure to themselves and prevent exposing others. And the most important one is getting vaccinated and making sure that people are up to date on their vaccines.
Thank you, Dr. Moreno. Next question. Do you see a true end to the pandemic within the next year now that we are on the anniversary of COVID restrictions being lifted in the state of California?
So again, we're in a pandemic and we've seen several surges, and as long as we're seeing transmission of COVID-19, as long as COVID-19 is continues to cause serious illness, hospitalizations, and deaths, we continue to really urge people to take additional measures in addition to getting vaccinated, which includes trying to avoid crowded indoor settings. If you are in a crowded indoor setting, use a face covering when you're indoors or outdoors. And if you're sick, stay home. And if you have COVID, get tested for COVID-19.
Thank you. Another question for you, Dr. Moreno. Is there anything you'd like to reflect on in terms of how Monterey County has handled the pandemic?
Actually, we're really focused more on trying to help the public understand what they can do to avoid exposure during this time of high transmission, and what people can do moving forward, which is to check frequently for updates from the FDA and CDC as to whether or not new populations are eligible for COVID-19 vaccination, or whether new guidance comes out in terms of who's eligible for boosters.
Thank you. Another question for you, Dr. Moreno. Transmission of the virus does not seem to be plateauing as was hoped for, and it's something you mentioned in last week's briefing. Does the health department have any new recommendations for Monterey County residents?
Yeah, so again, the transmission is out there. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We still recommend, the health department and I still recommend people get vaccinated. It's the number one strategy for trying to prevent illness and trying to decrease transmission via exposure to other people. So really, if you haven't been vaccinated, get vaccinated. If you have any questions about whether or not you should get vaccinated or boosted, you can certainly contact a healthcare provider.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for Dr. Moreno today? We'll have just a short briefing today just to cover COVID-19. And I am not seeing any other questions. If any questions do come in after we sign off, I will be sure to send them to Dr. Moreno. Thanks everyone for joining us for this short briefing today. Our next briefing is next week. We'll see you then.
Bye.